Ray Ezel, and I'm the president of the Orange County Historical Society. And on behalf of the Historical Society's board, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to our 60th birthday reception. It was on December the 7th, 1965, that this organization was formed. But before we begin with the program, I'd like to recognize a few folks. First, I'd like to recognize Jess Thompson, the chair of our Celebration Planning Committee. Next, I'd like to recognize Margaret Hill and Carla Passarello. They're responsible for the displays in the back. Recognize our staff at the Research Center, Jane Blair, Ruth Long, raise your hand. I'd also like to recognize the rest of the board of the Orange County Historical Society who continually, voluntarily devote their time and their talents to the mission of this organization. Thank you very much. Also, I want to recognize our generous sponsors for this event tonight. Those are James Madison's Montpelier, James Madison Museum of Orange County History, Salvage Rights, Historic Germanic, Mason Insurance, Relevant Nursery, C&G Car Wash, and May and Mike Saxton. Thank you very much. Also, did we lose our mic?
The acoustics are fine, just keep talking.
Okay, good. I think I can project. Also want to recognize and thank the operators of the Pavilion at Lakeland Venue, Redbud Catering, and Horton Venues. I want to give a very special recognition to a man that spent a lot of time in preparation for this event. I want to personally thank Mr. Phil Odebear, who produced the video. Unfortunately, due to a couple of technical difficulties, we couldn't get the video to play on the big TV monitors, but it is playing back there on the laptop at the back of the room. So after we conclude with all this up here, y'all be sure and watch that. And we're going to send out a link to it by email. It'll be on our website, so you certainly will be able to see it. There's music, narration, sound, so I think y'all will be very impressed.
Way to go, Phil.
Way to go, Phil, that's right. Lastly, one more recognition that I promise we'll get going in the rest of the program. I'd like to recognize Carter Jacobs, who's back there. Carter was an officer and a board member of this organization back in the early 1990s, and he continues to be a strong, loyal, vocal advocate for our mission today. Thanks, Carter. So I'm very excited to have y'all come out tonight to share this milestone event that marks a high water point in the history of this organization. I want to personally thank each and every one of you for your attendance and also for your support that you provided through various ways that enable this organization to meet its mission year after year after year. We appreciate all of you. Thank you. The Orange County Historical Society was established 60 years ago and remains as relevant and as vibrant today as it was when it was birthed. Part of the mission of the Historical Society is to tell the stories of the people, the places, the organizations, and the events of this county. Whether those people are white, black, Virginia Indian, found in the 18th century, or in the 20th century. We tell those stories and we tell them well. Fortunately, Orange County is a place where the people take its history seriously, conferring the appropriate amount of admiration on those bygone days However, their reverence is not just lip service to nostalgia, but a recognition that the history of this place and its people is worthy to tell. And that those stories can still inform and teach us and our children today and going forward in the 21st century. I hope that you feel the same way.
You'll find some bullet points in your program that give you some of the details of some of the accomplishments of the Orange County Historical Society over the decades. Since 1966, the Society is focused on supporting, conducting, and disseminating research through publishing and educational programs. Numerous books written and researched by prominent local historians include The First Settlers of Orange County, Virginia, from 1987 by Ulysses P. Joyner, The Fannie Hume Diaries of 1862, A Year in Wartime, Orange, Virginia, edited by J. Randolph Grimes, Jr., The Octonia Grant in Orange and Greene Counties by J. Randolph Grimes, Jr., Antebellum Orange, The Pre-Civil War Homes, Public Buildings, and Historic Sites of Orange County, Virginia by Ann L. Miller. Remembering, A History of Orange County, Virginia by Frank S. Walker, Jr. No Matter What Befalls Me, Virginia Families of War and Peace by Patrick Sullivan. With approximately 350 members, including over 30 Orange County public school teachers, the Society has published a research newsletter since 1969 and a monthly electronic bulletin, Orange Oracle, since 2020. We have conducted important research projects such as the archaeological excavation at the Rapidan Mound and compiling research on the historic Free Black community in Orange County. Fulfilling our mission to educate the community, we have presented approximately 500 live educational programs, produced an educational History to Go YouTube channel with 40-plus videos, which you can view at any time on our updated website, and we've conducted history teacher workshops with curriculum support materials for Orange County students. As a local resource for archival materials, we maintain a substantial collection of archived and digital original records, including ledgers, letters, and photographs, and you can see some of them back there on the tables. And we have created and maintained a research library that includes collected family histories. Thank you.
We're at the part of the program now where I want to give you all just a very brief update of a really interesting research project that we've been conducting over the past year, and that's our Free Black Research Project. In 2024, the Society was selected to receive a significant grant from the Virginia Museum of History and Culture to conduct research and compile a database of the Free Blacks in Orange County from 1734 to 1865. This research has examined wills, deeds, court cases, tax records, census rolls, and other documents to compile a systematic record for a portion of Orange County's history that has received little previous scholarship. Our research is still ongoing, but has to date compiled over 1,700 mentions of free blacks in Orange County during that period. Now please understand that this is not 1,700 unique individuals. It is only 1,700 mentions of free blacks in the county that fall across a variety of tax records, court records, census rolls, etc., etc. But what this does tell us is that beginning in the 18th century, there was a growing and vibrant population of free blacks in Orange County all the way up through the Civil War. We anticipate that once this stage of our research is complete, it will serve as a significant cornerstone to provide a way to link black families to their own history and genealogy in the period extending well before the Civil War. So we're very excited about that project. Now I'm going to stop talking in just a moment, but before I do, I'd like to welcome to the podium our keynote speaker for this evening. Her name is Dr. Katie Crawford-Lackey. Dr. Crawford-Lackey is a public historian dedicated to using history as a tool for civic engagement and democratic participation. She is the former director of the Center of the Constitution at James Madison's Montpelier and is currently the Chief Project Officer leading the strategic direction and implementation of organizational initiatives at Montpelier. Prior to joining Montpelier in 2021, she worked at the National Park Service's Cultural Resource Office of Interpretation and Education, where she managed federal programs such as Teaching with Historic Places. She earned her doctorate in public history from Middle Tennessee State University in 2020. Please welcome her to the podium.
So, in case you all can't hear me, just wave your hand and I'll try to speak louder. First off, I want to thank you all for being here this evening. This is a great crowd of people. I see some familiar faces. And I think we're all brought together by a shared love and a shared commitment to telling our histories, to telling our stories. And I want to thank the Orange County Historical Society for inviting me here tonight to be part of this momentous occasion. 60 years as an organization is a huge milestone, and it's really important because the work that you're all doing is important. Historical societies and other institutions are really critical in a functioning democracy. And what do I mean by that? An informed public is essential to sustaining a democracy. And those aren't just my words, that is James Madison's belief as well. And it's institutions like the Orange County Historical Society that are collecting and preserving these histories. Local histories, but also stories that are influencing our nation's history. So I want to take a moment and recognize how important this work is. I also want to take a moment and express my appreciation for some of the staff members from Montpelier who are here today. If you're a staff member at Montpelier, if you could just give a little wave to the crowd. It's wonderful to have folks like this here because Montpelier is really committed to the same kind of mission. We're committed to preserving and telling local stories in service of this national narrative. So, as I look out across today and I think about the things that I've heard today, the artifacts and documents that I've seen, again, I think we're all drawn here, or most of us at least, for our love and passion for history. But how many of us have heard, or perhaps said ourselves, history is boring? I want to know who you all are hanging out with because it sounds like that's the right crowd. In my experience, I've heard a lot of people, particularly younger Americans, talk about my history class was boring. Why would I enroll in college history courses? It didn't affect me. It doesn't relate to me. And whenever I hear somebody say that, it really strikes a chord because it's a missed opportunity for that person to connect to something that's greater than themselves. And I really saw the transformative power of history at work when I was in grad school. And I had always loved history, and I knew I wanted to make a career out of it, despite my parents really encouraging me to pursue finance or business. But I wanted to make a life in that field. So I double majored as an undergrad. I did history and anthropology. And then I graduated amidst the financial crisis of 2008, 9-10. Not a great time to be looking for a job, period, let alone in the humanities field. So I decided to go back to school. And I thought about pursuing a degree in history. But from my experience up till that point, history was very much about research and writing. You write some publications, maybe 5, 6, 7 of your colleagues who are really interested in that subject would read your academic tome, but it wasn't really reaching larger audiences. And I found out about a public history program at a university nearby, and I was really intrigued by this. I hadn't really heard a lot about public history up until that point. So I asked myself, what is public history? And I did a little research. And public history, yes, it does include some research and writing, you have to know your stuff, but it's really about making historical knowledge accessible and meaningful to larger audiences, to everyday people. And when we talk about public history, it could be, archival work, museums, historic sites, historical societies, what you all do. Any way we could connect history and make it relevant to people. And in my graduate program, I really saw the power of history to serve the public. It's a way to give people access to the stories that shape their lives, to inform them of their rights, and to connect them to their community. And I think when we talk about connecting people to their community, that is really important, particularly here in Orange, because there is such a rich history, local history, but also a national history here. And the two are very much intertwined. And it's here in Orange where Madison really kind of conceptualized and was shaped as a person, his beliefs and his political thoughts. So I see Orange as this really critical backdrop that informed Madison's conceptualization and articulation of some of the most important freedoms in America today. Now, Madison, I'm sure many of you probably know, was born in 1751. He was born in Port Conway, not here in Orange, but his parents brought him back to Montpelier when he was an infant. And he grows up at Montpelier. He's part of a wealthy slaveholding family at the time. But Virginia, in the 1750s, early 1760s, is a colony. So we haven't reached the American Revolution at this point. And the colony of Virginia has kind of like a sanctioned church. So the established church is this Church of England, the Anglican Church. And everybody has to pay taxes to the Anglican Church. It doesn't matter, if you're a different belief, if you're a Baptist, whatever. Madison himself is Anglican. His family is, those are kind of the circles he's running in. But what's notable about Madison, in contrast to some of his contemporaries, like Thomas Jefferson or James Monroe, Madison chooses to go to the College of New Jersey, which is today Princeton. And he's having a very unique experience there. He goes off to college in 1769, and he is interacting with people that are not just Anglicans. There's, Presbyterians there, there's even Catholics, there's, some Jewish students there. He's also interacting with people that are of different economic classes too. So he's getting a very different kind of experience, but he's also learning from really enlightened people. John Witherspoon, for example, is a Scottish Enlightenment thinker who is in charge of the school at the time. And he's talking to Madison about crazy things like individual rights. He's getting Madison thinking about, why do we invest ultimate authority in the church or in the monarchy? And you think about, okay, that's Madison's experience, away from home. And while all of that is happening, he's having these ideas and thoughts. Around the same time, we have the Boston Massacre in 1770. Then we have the Boston Tea Party in 1773. So we have colonies that are pushing back against the monarchy, all while Madison is thinking these radical thoughts, at least at that time. And so when he returns to Montpelier in the early 1770s, this is kind of the backdrop for things that he is experiencing and involved in locally. And I think there's a couple of these things that happen locally that are really significant, that kind of galvanize him into politics. One being persecution of Baptists, especially those up in Culpeper. Now, there's one in particular that Madison is really intrigued by. Elijah Craig is a Baptist preacher, and he's jailed in Orange County as well as Culpeper County because he's preaching without a sanctioned Anglican church license. Madison believes that this is wrong, and it really inspires ideas around freedom of religion. We also see Madison becoming involved in local organizations at that time too. For example, he takes a seat on the Safety Commission in Orange. Then towards kind of the outbreak of the American Revolution, he's going to be a colonel in the militia under his father. Now he doesn't fight. He's rather a sickly, kind of young man, short in stature. He's not your typical soldier build. But lucky for us, because instead, he went on to be part of the 5th Virginia Convention that year. So we're talking end of 1775, early 1776. And this convention is really important, not just for Virginia history, but for the nation. Madison is around 24, 25, so he's pretty young. But he's going into this convention with, titans in the field, George Mason. There's really influential people there. Madison's biggest contribution is convincing the delegates at that convention to alter some of the wording in this Virginia Constitution. So they're gathering together to try to draft a state constitution because they want to break away from the monarchy. But they have to have some type of government structure before they do that. Madison convinces the delegates to change the wording from full toleration of religious freedom to free exercise. That's a really important difference because Madison's saying it's not just about, one main religion that's tolerating others or a state constitution that's sanctioning. It's about people making up their own mind as to what they believe. And that's, again, a pretty radical thought for that period of time. And this Constitution, Virginia Constitution, and Madison's kind of thought process on that goes on to influence his writing of the U.S. Constitution and the drafting of the Bill of Rights, including the First Amendment, which recognizes religious freedom. And I think the fact that his experiences away from Orange and then coming back here are really critical in informing, again, some of the foundational freedoms that we cherish today. And this community continues to be really key for understanding these ideas and this national history today. I first learned about Montpelier in 2017. I was working on my doctoral program in Tennessee. I moved to Washington, D.C. to do a fellowship with the National Park Service. And while I was there, I was really looking to do some type of archaeological field school. I thought, public history was what my degree was in, but I recognized the importance of being able to understand the process of archaeology and how we unearth those artifacts, and then how we talk to the public about those artifacts. So I was looking at Monticello, Poplar Forest, Williamsburg, and I just couldn't decide between the three. Then my mentor at the Park Service said, no, if you really want to do public history and public archaeology, you have to do it at Montpelier. Show of hands, how many of us in this room are familiar with Dr. Matt Reeves? Matt, there's some folks that you have yet to meet. Matt Reeves is the director of archaeology at Montpelier. Give a little wave, Matt. The kind of archaeology and public engagement that Matt and his team were doing at Montpelier transformed the way that I thought about the past and how I wanted to engage people in that process. Long story short, because I could go on and on about, how amazing it was to be at Montpelier for the first time, driving through Orange. It was really life-changing. But again, long story short, That field school the summer of 2017 turned into a really deep love for Montpelier, for the local history here, and how we can connect it all, again, to this broader American story. So as soon as I was finished with field school, I kept checking Montpelier's job postings. It took a little while, several years in fact. But finally in 2021, there was a posting for a public historian at Montpelier. And I was like, I'll move from DC, federal job, don't need it. Montpelier is where it's at. And so I moved down here, and I've been a part of Montpelier first as the public historian, and then as the director of the Center for the Constitution. And that was a really rewarding experience because it allowed me to take this public history training. Again, how do we engage people in this? How do we make it relevant? But then adding this component of civic engagement. And because that's what it really ties back to. You know, how does our past inform our present so we can make better decisions for tomorrow? And it's not just the work I was doing at the center, and then eventually now in my current role as Chief Project Officer, it was all of that great work, feeling like, you know, using this history to do something bigger, to connect Montpelier to the local community, but also the broader community. And it's also been the staff that work at Montpelier. I'm guessing that many of you feel a sense of kind of shared community and commitment with the people in the Historical Society, for example, some of the other organizations in Orange. I feel similarly about Montpelier. There is a real shared sense of purpose and passion that I haven't found elsewhere, that I experienced at Montpelier and here in Orange. And currently, this is such an exciting moment to be at Montpelier, and I have to give a little nod to our current acting president and CEO, Krista Costello, who's up here at the front, for her leadership. I think more so than any other person I've worked under, Krista has been very much advocating for connecting with the local community. I often hear, you know, Montpelier needs to be national, it's a national story. Absolutely. But the local community comes first. That's where we're rooted in. So I'm really excited, again, to be part of that. And I'm glad that we're kind of really embracing that direction under her leadership. So today Montpelier carries on Madison's legacy and also his ideals. So Madison thought historical literacy was part of a broader kind of commitment to keeping democracy alive. He believed that people had to be educated, they had to know their nation's history in order to be active and informed participants. Democracy requires that we all be engaged and involved. It is a civic responsibility, and it's not always easy, but that shared commitment to our system of government, to our Constitution, but also to each other is something that I see happening at Montpelier, but also here in Orange. And this work, obviously, is a lot greater than just Montpelier. And it's organizations like the Orange County Historical Society that help preserve these important stories, that are providing access to these stories to the public. We all have to be invested in this work. Not just our organizations, but also us as individuals. And so again, I just want to thank you all for having me here tonight to talk about this and just reinforce how critical this work is, how critical it is to engage with each other, but also younger generations who may not feel as invested, being able to connect with them and show them how important it is in order for them to be making decisions for tomorrow. I think we're more successful when we support each other, and on behalf of Montpelier, we applaud the work that you're doing at the Historical Society, and we look forward to continued collaboration in the future.
Katie. Okay. The next part of the program is very special to me. I'm sure it's going to be very special to all of you out in the audience tonight. We're going to talk about the Frank S. Walker Jr. Historic Preservation Award. This award was recently established by our directors to recognize an individual's outstanding achievement and service to Orange County in the area of history, public history, and historic preservation. In agreeing to lend his name to this award, Frank Walker stresses that he stands on the shoulders of several excellent Orange County historians that came before him. They laid the groundwork. They laid the important groundwork to establish the tradition of producing excellent and important Orange County history. These previous historians who have directly influenced Frank are J. Randolph Grimes Jr., William H.B. Thomas, and Ulysses P. Jordan. Frank wants everyone to understand explicitly that it is in their worthy recognition and on their behalf that he modestly lends his name to this award. This evening, the Orange County Historical Society hereby bestows the first Frank S. Walker Jr. Historic Preservation Award to Frank Walker.
Unaccustomed as I am, I sincerely and deeply appreciate the recognition, not just of me, though I'm very thankful, but the recognition of the lodestone, the talisman, the holy grail of working historians, professional or amateur, and that is preservation. It starts out, of course, with someone's recording sites and events that are occurring directly in front of him or her. And then for most of us, it's revisiting that material years, decades, maybe a century or two later, and with understanding, we reorganize that material, we rephrase it where necessary, change words where words have lost their meaning altogether or has changed. We supplement it with other reports that we have had an opportunity to examine, maybe add a correction or two here and there, and then we produce this information for our generation and hopefully for the generation to come. We have preserved the knowledge and experience of an earlier time. We are making it available to those of us who are here today, and hopefully those who are coming along at least for another maybe generation before someone has to take it and do the same thing all over again. But that is the work, that is the basic scut work of history, but you've got to be interested in it. And the thing that interests you usually or the events, or the people. And I'll very briefly tap into one. The Reverend Elijah Craig was mentioned in the primary speech. Elijah Craig was a member of the Craig teaching family. Bunch of hard-nosed, hard-shelled fundamentalists. Brother, are you saved? And Craig himself, when the group of Baptists in 1766 organized up near Somerset, they very soon called the Reverend Craig to be their very first pastor. And this is Blue Run Baptist Church. And if you want to read the history of Blue Run Baptist Church, specifically, Garland Tyree has written a phenomenal history of Blue Run Baptist Church. But the fun thing for me is, Reverend Craig got married into, his family married into the Faulkner family of Orange County. And Reverend Craig ultimately packed up his family and moved to Kentucky. And word began drifting back from Kentucky to the Blue Run Baptist Church congregation. He had established the town of Georgetown, Kentucky, named for George Washington. He then established the University of Georgetown. And one of my history instructors at Woodbury Forest School was a graduate of Georgetown University. Did not know that at the time. He built a fulling mill, makes cloth. He built a rope walk, how you make cordage. I don't know if they didn't have a navy in Kentucky that I know of, but he made cordage. But then word came back that Reverend Craig was making whiskey. Well, back then most everybody made whiskey, corn whiskey. Turns out he had a fire in his barn and some of his barrels got burnt. And he was being somewhat frugal, so he went ahead and stored his, what had come out of the distillery process, stored it in these charred barrels. And the stuff that came out of that barrel was something extra. Extra! And let me tell you, you can go to the ABC store in Orange today and buy Elijah Craig bourbon. That's what makes history fun. I looked at the label that came, and here's one that really gets you. Elijah Craig bourbon is made by Heaven Hill Distillery. I called them up. Got the publicity director, and she said, no, we're not a successor, we're not a direct successor. But when we created this limited edition bourbon, we knew the story of Reverend Craig, and so we gave it his name. And that's what makes history fun. Preservation is necessary, but the material you're working with has got to be fun. One other point I want to make. Everybody in here, we are probably the last generation of people who will be able to do independent thinking with ease. Artificial intelligence is very quickly becoming intrusive intelligence. And a request for information comes back, duly already summarized, already tweaked, already polarized. It's very hard not to go with the flow. You've got to know what your own values are as a historian, as a person, or you're going to get caught up in this flow. And like I say, intrusive intelligence, you're going to find it hard to do your own thinking for every generation that comes after us. And in fact, there are people in our generation who've already caved in. The only thing I can say for sure is if you've got a family member, good friend, and they say, I've just given up trying to really get through this stuff and find out what really went on, I'm just going to take the information as it comes and use it. Buy them a shovel. Tell them to put it in the corner of their office or in the closet of their house. Because at some point, when the computer finally fails them totally, they'll know to get the shovel and start digging because that's all they're good for. That's all the way you're going to put food on the table. But for now, thank you so very much for coming out this evening. Thank you for this award so much.
For those of you that know me, I actually wrote something down, so you know that this is an important occasion. I want to begin by offering my sincere thanks to our board of directors, especially Ray, and to all of our dedicated members, past and present, who have helped build this organization over the last 60 years. Your commitment to honoring and preserving our local history has created a thriving, respected institution that continues to serve our community with pride. And how wonderful to be here tonight to see a true local legend honored for all that he has done to tell the story of Orange County. Mr. Walker, it is an honor to know you, and congratulations again on your well-deserved award. I want to take a second to again thank the committee members who helped make this possible. Mike, Margaret, Carla, the staff of the Historical Society, the Sedgwicks for the wonderful setup this evening, and our lovely bartender, Michael. Disappeared, but he was wonderful and took care of everything. Today we are coming together in the spirit of stewardship to begin the next important chapter for the Historical Society. We are launching a capital campaign to raise the funds needed to replace the roof on our historic building. The building is more than bricks and beams. It is a vessel for stories, memories, and milestones that connect us all. But as any good preservationist knows, caring for the past requires care in the present. Our roof has weathered many decades, and while it has stood strong, it is now at the end of its life. Replacing it is not just about maintenance, it is about protecting everything we've worked so hard to preserve inside these walls. Artifacts, archives, exhibits, and the experiences we share with our community every day. Our goal is to raise $63,000 to ensure a proper, appropriate replacement that will last for generations to come. We know that it's a significant effort, but we also know the heart and generosity of this community and how much this building means to so many people. We will be sharing more soon about how you can get involved and contribute and help us spread the word. Together we can make sure that this roof continues to shelter not just a building, but a legacy. Thank you for your support and for being a part of our history.
In closing, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Members, friends, guests, and if you're not currently a member of the Orange County Historical Society, we have membership forms in the vestibule. There are free books. There are free newsletters. Please take one. Please take them home. Pass them down to your children, your grandchildren. Just get one before they run out. Okay? Lastly, if you're interested in seeing the Historical Society continue in its mission for the next 60 years, feel free to make a contribution to that end. See me after this meeting. I will certainly guide you in the proper direction. Feel free to stick around. talk to one another, look at the displays in the back, watch the video on the laptop, and finish out your evening with fellowship. Thank you.